HelpMeWithStats.com was used to create this tutorial that can help us understand the experimental outcomes. Let's use a flowchart to consider all the possible outcomes of a hypothesis test. The outcomes are divided into two main groups that depend upon whether the condition affects the variable or not. Let's start by considering the outcomes when the condition does not affect the variable in the population. In other words, the null hypothesis is true in reality. When the null hypothesis is true, there are two possible outcomes to the hypothesis test. In most cases, our hypothesis test will correctly fail to reject the null hypothesis. In fact, we can determine the probability of correctly failing to reject the null hypothesis. The probability of correctly failing to reject the null hypothesis is 1 minus alpha. In the display, we can see that the green area of the null hypothesis distribution is 1 minus the rejection region. Therefore, the size of the green region is 1 minus alpha. In a small number of cases, our hypothesis test will incorrectly reject the null hypothesis when the null hypothesis is true in reality. These false rejections occur, by definition, with probability alpha and are referred to as type 1 errors. In the display, we can see that the blue rejection region of the null hypothesis distribution is alpha. When the alternative hypothesis is true, this indicates that the condition does affect the variable. When the alternative hypothesis is true, there are two possible outcomes to the hypothesis test. Sometimes, our hypothesis test will correctly reject the null hypothesis. This probability is referred to as the power of the experiment and is also indicated by 1 minus beta. Calculating the power is challenging because there are 5 different experiment factors that affect the power. In the display, we can see the power defined to be the green part of the alternative population distribution that is above the critical value of the null hypothesis distribution. Sometimes, our hypothesis test will incorrectly fail to reject the null hypothesis. This probability is referred to as the type 2 error and is indicated by beta. In the display, we can see the type 2 error rate defined to be the light blue part of the alternative population distribution that is below the critical value of the null hypothesis distribution. For more help with statistics, HelpMeWithStats.com is a free website that has more than 70 tutorials, as videos, or as self-paced slideshows. You can also learn how to conduct more than 60 statistical analyses by watching videos that show complete solutions, or by working through an unlimited number of examples using the step-by-step problem solvers. Finally, you can access a comprehensive stats textbook with more than 685 review questions. Thanks for watching. If you find these resources valuable, please share with your friends, teachers, and professors.